Meet our next comedian. She is a CPA with a Master of Accountancy from Auburn University.
Ooh, oh boy. Oh boy.
Yeah. I so knew that was coming. After years of working for the local government, she recently took on a new gig as the Treasury and Benefits Specialist at the North Georgia Conference of the United Methodist Church.
Yeah.
This is her, there's no war cry for Methodists.
Go get it. It's perfect. It's perfect, Tom.
So she has been in our show for 3 years. Last year, she was our first runner-up, a very funny lady. Please give it up for Amy King.
Come sail away, come sail away, come sail away with me. Come sail away with me.
So, like Tommy said, I recently left local government and went to work for the Methodist Church. I never would have thought I would go from working for the man to working for the man. But considering I took 10 years of piano lessons and only learned to play hymns, this path has kind of been laid out for a while. Now, I may have started this new job, but there is still one old job I can't seem to shake. I am still the IT director of Mama and Daddy Enterprises. You may have a similar second job, remembering passwords and setting up wireless printers for the people who changed your diapers. I tried to quit, but then they reminded me the job came with an excellent benefits package, but I had used up all the benefits at an early age, so now I owed them a lifetime of technical support servitude. I mean, they taught me to use a fork, and Daddy cut up my food until I went to college. Which, for the record, I didn't know was weird until I went to college. And I had a friend over, and I passed him my plate over to cut up my food, and he just looked at me like instead of passing him some original recipe, I'd passed a live chicken. Knife skills are something you clearly should have before you start college, as apparently cutting up another grown person's food is not part of the social contract. They saved me from one of my biggest fears, being eaten by a croc-a-gator. According to my Uncle Reuben, a croc-a-gator was a reptile that was a crocodile on one end and an alligator on the other, and it was very, very mean because it had a head on each end and no bottom, so it could eat and eat but couldn't poop. And if you've ever had a vacation ruined by that same situation, you understand. Do you understand why it was so mean? Then the ultimate kicker, they reminded me I'd not given them any grandchildren, although my sister has 3 kids. All 3 pregnancies, she prayed and prayed they wouldn't have red hair. But what she should have prayed is that they wouldn't be like me. 3 kids who can't use a knife are too many. You never really know where you fall in priority until grandkids come along. For example, for years and years, my sister and I begged for a trampoline. All our friends had one, but our parents had deemed them too dangerous for us. Then my sister had a baby. Not long after she came home from the hospital, I went for a visit, and what did I see in the backyard? Did you guess a trampoline? You were right. I walked in the house and just stared agape at my mama, and she looked me dead in the eye and said, "It's for the baby." I thought about starting a college fund for the baby, but instead I just bought a trampoline. Now these grandkids are getting to do all the fun stuff, jumping on trampolines, celebrating Halloween. We did not celebrate Halloween in our house growing up. We had a harvest hayride, or a fall festival, or an October 31st prayer meeting. not saying that's bad. I'm just saying now I don't know the first thing about celebrating Halloween. My costumes are bedazzled puff paint sweatshirts. Children scoff at my peppermint and butterscotches. And no matter how much I turn out the lights and lock the doors, I still can't keep children from disturbing me while I try to read my Bible in the fortress of solitude. What I'm saying is it's no wonder I rebelled against my parents, and instead of becoming a regular farmer, I became an organic one. They thought they were keeping us safe, but really they just wound up turning me into a hippie. First, I tore up the front yard and planted a vegetable garden. And then I got the chickens. And then I really tried to amp it up a bit, really put the hip in hippie, and make my own kombucha. But what I wound up doing is creating a fruit fly colony that took over the whole house. Then we had to bug bomb the place, which really is the opposite of a hippie hot lifestyle. You don't really see women in long, flowing, tie-dye dresses and Birkenstocks walking into Home Depot to buy Roundup. But after all, our organic solutions just made the natural disaster worse. We decided maybe Monsanto was onto something. In the spirit of reconciliation, I did recently take Daddy on a trip to the Grand Canyon in complete accountant fashion with a detailed hourly itinerary in Excel. I thought I was giving him a break from my mama, but I was wrong. He called her 5 to 17 times a day. He'd call to see what she was doing on the off chance it had changed from the other 4 times that hour. He'd call to see if she'd seen the photos I'd shared on Facebook, as if she didn't get a text, email, and notification every time I posted on Facebook. Multiple times a day, he'd put her on speakerphone so she could talk to both of us, presumably so she didn't miss out on the fun. I mean, it was a nice break from him asking me questions like, now, have you seen a doctor about why you're so cold all the time? Or making observations like, well, if you sweat more, maybe you wouldn't smell so bad. We were only gone for 4 days, and on the second day, he commented that was the longest he'd been away from his carpentry business, and in the most dramatic voice ever, that he hoped he didn't forget everything he'd ever learned. Considering our first stop off the plane had been to Ace Hardware, I think he was okay. But he did quickly find something he could fix at the Airbnb. The light switch in his room didn't work quite like he thought it should, so he upgraded it. And then he was on a roll. The kitchen sink was a little leaky, so he replaced it, the whole sink. Then he noticed that the grout in the bathroom was a little loose. I mean, who would have thought that faulty grout was more exciting than the Grand Canyon? My daddy, I guess. And the funny thing is when we went to Ace, he didn't get any of the supplies to do all the work. I mean, his carry-on was really as full as it would get, but I did not realize he had taken everything in the kitchen sink quite so literally. And also, I would like to point out, he didn't okay any of this with the hostess either. I mean, maybe he was afraid he was going to lose all his carpentry skills. Or maybe when he saw her, he saw me in 50 years, an old lady living alone in my house with my chickens and my King James version, handing out Werther's Originals to children on Halloween. Thank y'all.